the KPMG Sydney Sail Grand Prix. It's been on the circuit since SailGP's inception. It's an iconic location for iconic racing, and Sydney never disappoints. The 2026 season, though, has been brutal.
Race number 3, coming awfully close, and the Black Boys collide with DS Team France.
SailGP, Sydney Harbour, non-stop action.
Waves crash underneath, sound like thunder speaking. Flying carbon machines driven by the world's best, yes. Powered by nature, raw passion, all action. When it takes, racing on water, racing with impact. Give it all, everything, give it all, everything. We are racing. When it takes, we are SailGP.
The Antipodean Triple Crown rolls on as SailGP returns to one of the most iconic venues in all of sailing. Once again, the Harbour City welcomes the world's best sailors to its friendly but challenging waters, as the latest test comes in the form of one of the most beautiful racing backdrops found anywhere on the globe. This is the KPMG Sydney Sail Grand Prix. In every season of SailGP, the league has always made a stop in Sydney, Australia, not only for its sheer beauty and knowledgeable racing fans in this sail-frenzied nation, but because to win in Sydney truly carries weight in the sailing community. To win here, you must earn it against the very best on a race course that leaves little room for error. In the shadows of the world-renowned Opera House, you are on the biggest stage under the brightest lights. Today, the international teams of SailGP compete not only for points, but for confirmation of their sailing prowess. Alongside former Emirates GBR athlete Hannah Diamond and Olympian Stevie Morrison, I'm Todd Harris. After the action wraps in Sydney, the fleet makes its maiden voyage to new waters off the coast of Brazil and the city of Rio. Then its return visits to Bermuda, New York City, and Halifax, Canada, before the league says goodbye to North America. 4 iconic ports in Europe await before the final 2 stops in the Middle East and the grand final this November in Abu Dhabi, where a Season 6 champion will be crowned. Let's look back at how the first 2 events of the 2026 season shaped up.
Just 2 events into the 2026 Rolex SailGP Championship, and the title race is already at deadlock. 2 heavyweight teams sit tied at the summit of the standings. Emirates GBR took the season opener.
Open the 2026 season with a spectacular title defense and get the Emirates winning moment.
But the Bonds Flying Roos answer back with a clinical performance in Auckland, a whole year since their last win.
The champions here in Auckland. Once again, it's the Bonds Flying Roos 2 years in a row.
With both teams carrying a first and a second place finish on their scorecards, they are locked together on points. It's a rivalry that could go on all season. The Swedish outfit is making waves as the league's newest contenders. Led by the wind whisperer Nathan Outridge, they've played a masterclass in consistency, proving their sights are set firmly on the championship podium as they sit nicely in 4th overall.
And it's the new kids on the block. Artemis Sweden that gets the win. They go 2 for 2 on the final 2 races of the day for the Emirates winning moment again.
It's been a tough year for the Blackfoils. After being penalised by the umpires for their crash with Switzerland in Perth, they came to their home event ready to reset and restart their season.
Phil Robertson coming awfully close, and the Blackfoils collide with DS Team France.
Most importantly, Louis Sinclair of the Blackfoils and DS Automobile Team France's Manon Odinet have since been released from hospital. Both teams are not racing this weekend.
After 2 events, it is the home team, the Bonds Flying Roos, even on points with the reigning champions, Emirates GBR. DS Team France sits in 3rd, but will not race this weekend due to damage in Auckland. New squad Artemis sit in 4th, 3 points clear of the US SailGP team in 5th. Season 4 champions Los Gallos Spain are in 6th, then Germany Deutsche Bank, Rockwell Racing Denmark, North Star Canada, and Red Bull Italy round out the top 10. A tough start to the season for the Blackfoils of New Zealand, with Budla Brazil and the Swiss bring up the rear of the fleet here in 2026.
Well, we're going to get racing underway here on day one in Sydney with 4 races for the 11-boat fleet out there today. There'll be 3 more races for the whole fleet tomorrow when we get back on the water there. 10 points if you win the race, 1 if you're back in 10th, none for that last place finisher. And it's all about accumulating points, and we'll get the final 3 boats will take place in that winner-take-all final tomorrow.
So we are almost set to go racing here as we have the 11 teams ready to roll here into Sydney Harbor. All the crews excited to get back out on the water in this iconic venue here on the 3rd stop of the 2026 season.
The iconic Sydney Harbour is home to this weekend's racecourse, and it promises to bring some tight racing and great conditions. The racecourse is surrounded by land, leaving little time to read the wind coming down the course, so crews will have to be dynamic with how they sail the boat, and execution will be paramount. Unlike our graphic, the boats will hopefully go round Shark Island and not through, but it adds a strategic complication, and which side teams choose to go will be the KPMG decision of the day. Drop off the foil and a manoeuvre, and it's going to be hard to play catch-up, so we'll be looking for minimal manoeuvres and 100% flight time.
And now just moments away before we kick things off with the first fleet race of the day. Before we do that, we check in down on the water for the latest updates on the weather and the boat configuration. Here's Olympic silver medalist Lisa Darmanin.
Well, it's not the normal Sydney Harbour strong winds that we are used to. It's a challenging racetrack out here with a wind blowing from the southeast around 15 kilometres per hour, gusting to 25 kilometres per hour. But it's so changeable out here. So lots of opportunities around the racetrack to get it right, but certainly get it wrong. Configuration-wise, we've got the big light air T-foils, which we haven't seen since last season, the light air rudder winglets to match. Aero package, we've got the 24-metre all-purpose wing and large J1 at the front, and only 5 people on board for this race. Obviously, we'll miss the black foils and DS Team France, but the good news is that I've got the French driver, Quentin Delapierre, with me throughout today's racing to give us some extra intel.
All right, thank you very much, Lisa. We look forward to that and Contan's insight as we are under 90 seconds away. So, Hannah Diamond, as we look at this and we get the information from Lisa Darmanin, where is going to be the most critical spot on this race course today?
Well, as you can see, the start line is set up right under Shark Island, so we're expecting to see a bit of a wind shadow there, so quite tricky to get away from Shark Island. But once the boat gets a little bit closer to Sydney Harbour Bridge, there should be great breeze down there.
So just over 1 minute away before the start of race number 1 here at the KPMG Sydney Sail Grand Prix, part of the Rolex SailGP Championship. And now the dance begins. This is the calm before the storm as everyone tries to get themselves into position. Stevie Morrison, we've seen it before. Who's played it right this time?
Well, yeah, the timing's going to be so hard in terms of getting on the foils. Artemis have done a nice job of manoeuvring at the back of the box and staying on the foils with 40 seconds to go. Only 2 oh, they've got a penalty for going outside the boundary on Artemis, though. Disaster. They're going to have to drop right back. Emirates GBR, bottom of the screen. They look well positioned at the moment, but they're not on the foils. Top of the line, the Bonds Flying Rouge take an aggressive move down behind the Canadian team here. Can North Star defend? I think the boats are late here coming into the start line. Hard to judge. Favourite pole position is up the line, and it's going to be about hitting the boat, foiling fast when the gun goes. North Star well positioned. Emirates GBR are going to need to be foiling if they don't want to be rolled over by the whole fleet. Who's got their timing right? Slingsby dives through the middle. The Bonds Flying Rouge are foiling fast out the middle of the line. Rolex pole predictor stock sits on Rockwool, Denmark, and I think the Danish should be able to drive over the top of the British from here. Look at them accelerate to Mark 1.
Softer for 5. Back in 2. Nice kind of roll, GBR here. 1. Up on now.
And Nikolai Sandstedt calling it out as they approach mark number 1. Can they roll over the top of the defending champions, Emirates GBR? It is Rockwool, Denmark, as they approach mark number 1, looking to pick up the whole shot in the first fleet race of the day.
Just broke the overlap in time then, Todd, didn't they? You can see the gusts of wind coming down the course. Emirates GBR did a mighty job of hanging on the inside there, but it's a big gap at Mark 1 here. I think that was a really interesting comment from Sehested there. Keep the battery charged. He's not talking about an actual battery. He's talking about keeping the boat fast. And I think the key to doing well out there on a day like this is keep the boat speed high. If you're going fast, you've got options.
That's going to wait for puff in 5 for the jibe, I think. Copy. Stand by.
Really important to wait for more wind to make the first manoeuvre out of here. You can see they're all pushing towards that boundary to make sure they can nail this first manoeuvre.
Slightly softer out.
Bonds Flying Ruse make the turn. So in third place, the Bonds Flying Ruse. Second place, Emirates GBR. And Nikolai Sehested and Rockwell Denmark in first.
That's good angle. Hold it there.
You can see in these light winds, they've got the big foils on, so they glide nicely through the manoeuvres. But if you fall off the foils, there's a lot of drag in the water to get accelerating again there, and you can see great manoeuvre by the Bonds Flying Ruse. They jumped past Emirates GBR. It was a bad manoeuvre. Tash Bryan telling that for us out there. And top of the screen, the Spanish, they were early to manoeuvre at Mark 1. They found Breeze, and if you do find Breeze, you're just going to go faster. Left-hand side, Artemis Racing at the back of the pack at the moment, but what can they do?
So at gate number 2, it is still the Danes out in front. Nikolai Sehested and Rockwell take the lead, and they will be followed around that mark by the Bonds Flying Ruse. And now a late change at the last second. Los Gallos Spain, now they're in the mix with North Star Canada and Emirates GBR.
Yeah, it's interesting. It shows how light it is that Spain didn't want to do 2 manoeuvres there. And I'm going to throw it down to Lisa and Contan on the water. You guys have paid the big money. Who's made the right call at gate 2?
Put pressure on the right. I made.
Oh, it's really hard, Stevie, out here. I think the one thing is just being in clear air is making it so much easier and obviously minimising manoeuvres. But, Conton, how difficult is it to stick a foiling manoeuvre in these conditions?
Yeah, it's super tricky, especially on the exit of the drive. Like we see, all the boats were quite marginal foiling. But, yeah, it was, I mean, as Lisa said, it will be tricky upwind now.
So back to racing action, leg 3 of 6. This is fleet race number 1, scheduled for 4 today. It is the Bonds Flying Ruse now that have taken over the lead. Tough start for the US SailGP team, Stevie. They were mired in the back, but they've worked their way up to 7th place for Taylor Canfield and crew.
Yeah, he's going to have a manoeuvre to do on the boundary, and he'll be then finding himself in a bit of disturbed air. Top of the screen, we can see that Rockwell Denmark, they invested a lot, sailing a big angle away from the wind to get up and foiling, but those 2 boats on the far side of the course there, they're coming across under Shark Island, and I think this pattern on the course, left turn at the bottom, early out, gets you away from Shark Island at the top, Hannah.
Yeah, I think that looked like a really nice choice to me. And we can see there's quite a lot of width on the course, so the boats can spread out quite a lot. We can see they've brought gate 3 down quite a bit to be in line with Shark Island, just to try and avoid some of that wind shadow, because the wind has got a little bit lighter and more patchy. So for Rockwell Denmark, they can get the boat really nice and stable, use some of the width on that course, and hopefully try and take control of this race. But if you get tied up with other boats in the middle of the course, it can be really tricky. Much harder to stay on the foils and build some speed and be fast.
Nice, beautiful tight cross there as you have Emirates GBR and Los Gallos Spain making the move. It is still Rockwell Denmark in first place. The Bonds Flying Ruse sit in second. They're the winners of the last event in Auckland, New Zealand. But this is a great showing for Nikolai Sehested, Stevie, and this is something they could certainly use a big win here in Australia.
Yeah, they've gone really fast here because they had a bit of a problem with the Bonds Flying Ruse potentially if they hadn't got up to their angle, but they've really gone fast across there. And this is the first time since Abu Dhabi that we've seen them performing. Now, I think it's important for us all to remember the start of season 6. Well, I mean, it's been absolutely lit up, hasn't it? It's been so windy. This is a tactician's game out here today. Very, very delicate on the foils, very, very delicate with the wings, maximise what you can get from the breeze, but then you've got to be tactically sharp.
I'll try and manage traffic myself. Yeah, right turn in 10.
As Lisa reported earlier, just 5 people on board this time around. Normally there are 6, so 1 less set of eyes out there to give Nikolai Sehested the intel that he needs. But right now he's doing a great job as he makes the turn on gate number 3, way out in front. Tight crossing here as the Bonds Flying Ruse will thread the needle. Tom Slingsby on home waters gets it done.
Rudder's coming off here.
Yeah, I mean, that was pretty silky smooth, wasn't it, right through there? And I think it's interesting they talk about managing the traffic. Normally, Sydney Harbour gives us the roundabout in the middle of the course with Shark Island, and that takes care of the traffic. But this top gate here, as you can see, Rockwell Denmark have fallen off the foils. They're in the middle of the pack there. They're going to be struggling to stay ahead of Emirates GBR here, I think.
Down again now.
Yeah, to me, that right turn's really risky. You can see Emirates GBR taking that left turn. And I think if they can get up and foiling here, and get that first manoeuvre across, they'll stay away from that wind shadow and they should be able to foil all the way down the course.
Yeah, already back past Rockwell. Rockwell, middle of our screen. They're going downwind and they're off the foils. It's all about sticking good manoeuvres. Can Emirates GBR stay up?
Back in the pack, there you see Switzerland in 5th place. Red Bull Italy currently holding down 6th place. US SailGP in 7th. Artemis now has moved up. They've picked up a spot. Now they overtake 7th. And the Americans with North Star Canada in 9th. With Butler Brazil in 10th. And Germany, Deutsche Bank rounding out the fleet right now. Remember, New Zealand and France not racing this weekend because of the incident and the collision and damage to their boats 2 weeks ago in Auckland.
Interested in and out of these gates, Hannah. You mentioned it there. Rockwell manoeuvred in a really weird place. They manoeuvred kind of right in and around where it was busy, right in and around the pack where there's going to be a lot of disturbed wind. GBR came to the boundary. Bond's Flying Rouge have gone all the way to the top right-hand corner of our screen. They've got wide on the course. Generally speaking, the edges of the course are going to have more wind, yeah?
Yeah, that's right, and that's why we see boats in the middle of the pack getting really stuck and that lead kind of getting a little bit bigger. So we go on board, it does look like it's pretty light, so the tempo's got to stay quite low on board, and because of the width of the course, there can be quite a lot of separation. So for the 2 boats leading, it's going to be about who gets the best shift and can carry the pressure all the way down the course.
Everyone wants to know where the wind is and where it will be coming from, and so we check in down in the water with Lisa Darman. And Lisa, as a fellow Sydney resident with Tom Slingsby, do you see an advantage that he knows this course better, or is it so patchy and unpredictable that it's anyone's game?
Oh, it is so patchy out here. When you stick an island in the middle of the racetrack, it makes it even harder. The other thing is it's not a normal direction for Sydney Harbour, so not so much local knowledge coming into play. But what I liked about what they did there is they minimised manoeuvres. They went all the way to the boundary and they got on the other side of the island to execute their manoeuvre. Conton and I have been watching all these manoeuvres. It's high pressure. How hard is it when you're in the pack, Conton, compared to out the front?
The hardest point is to make sure you are on the pressure first, and yeah, the Aussies did an unbelievable job with this. And you can see that as soon as you are off the foils, it's a game changer. So yeah, well done to them.
All the way here for clearing some gas.
Yeah, well done for Nikolai as well, because they had a terrible start to that leg, but they've got themselves right back in it. Kept the boat foiling down the bottom, and it sounds like he's learned from his mistake there. He's like, we're going to go all the way, let's stretch the course wide. I think another team to keep your eye on, top of the screen, Artemis there. They were right at the back of the pack, but they're out in space as well, so a chance for them to make a move here. And remember, there's a lot of races to get to that final 3 tomorrow, so it's about being consistent. Right of way, United States. Germany have got to be confident they're ahead here.
Softer in a second. Big righty here, eh?
I think they were clear.
So it's Emirates GBR now that approach the DP World Gate. They'll head back up the course. Remember, we are on leg 5 of 6, so everyone heading back to the top or about where we started from, and then it'll be one short leg to the finish line, and fleet race number 1 will be complete as we are scheduled for 4 fleet races today with 11 teams out on the water.
Bond's Flying Rouge are down the road here. They're gone.
I know we're not going to get a foiler. We're just going to get on the course here for that breeze.
That was Nikolai just before their last manoeuvre there, so they knew that they weren't going to be going fast enough to commit to a foiling tack. You can see 30 kilometres an hour, not quite fast enough to get foiling. We're looking closer to 34, 35 kilometres an hour needed to get back up on the foils.
Here we go, potentially the last manoeuvre in here. Goobs running across there. That's Ian Jensen. This is actually his first race. He joined the team at the end of last season as the champion with Emirates GBR. Possibly one of the biggest signings of the year. There he is. He's on that wing sheet. But unfortunate injury in training before Perth. So potentially his first race in the green and gold back with the Australian team is going to be a win here.
Not too shabby, as the Bond's Flying Rouge, fresh off their victory 2 weeks ago in Auckland, are bringing it home as they can see the finish line, and all the fans on Shark Island are going to be very excited to see the home team bring it home. It's one more gate and then a straight shot to the finish.
2, 1, clear.
Oh, and Emirates GBR picks up a
this
penalty.
Is the umpires. Penalty GBR, port attack boat not keeping clear, go behind Denmark.
There's 3 marks.
That must have been an aggressive cross, but it won't be too expensive a penalty here. And this is, it's almost in the realms of what I call a professional foul, that one, I'd say. But it looks like we're going to get the win. Look at this shot with the Sydney skyline in the background.
As the sun begins to set in beautiful Sydney Harbour, the wind goes the way of the Bond's Flying Rouge. They take race number 1 here in Sydney.
Thanks, guys. He's still good, FYI.
Referring to his knee injury that he picked up there. Can't be that bad, Goobs. You look like you're going all right there, mate.
So the Emirates winning moment goes the way of the home team, the green and gold, as they spin it around Shark Island for all their fans there. And now the race is on for second and third. Stevie, right out of the corner of my eye, I see the Wind Whisperer, your man, Nathan Outridge. He was in dead last, now moved up to fifth.
Yeah, and he's going to have a chance to get back past Red Bull Italy as well. So Rockwool are going to get round in second. That's kind of done there. They're going to be clear ahead. As long as they can just keep it foiling, it should be fine. But Italy, Red Bull Italy have got 2 more manoeuvres to do. That's going to be an interesting race. Middle of our screen, Red Bull Italy, they're in a big gust of wind. That's good news for them, but they're going to have 2 more manoeuvres. Artemis, bottom right-hand corner. They've only got 1 more manoeuvre to do, but they've got the USA in the way. It's going to be very congested at the top. The first 3 boats, it's smooth, but when you're in the pack, the details matter. Big moment for Artemis versus USA right now.
So Rockwool, Denmark will bring it across as the water shimmers here in beautiful Sydney Harbor. It will be the Danes finishing second. Emirates GBR, the winners of last season, they finish in third, and now it is all on. Artemis trying to build that speed, and here comes Red Bull Italy.
Yeah, they really overturned there. They turned too far. They lost a lot of speed. It was a hard manoeuvre, but they didn't manage to execute it. Red Bull Italy, nice job. They're going to get themselves right back in it, and this is what we expect from Phil Robertson.
And Los Gallos, they're cutting right in front as well, so a big pickup for the Spanish as they go from 8th to 5th.
Yeah, this is their kind of conditions as well here, I'd say, really, as we can see the US team. They're going to be 6th. Artemis, so close. They nearly got back to 4th, but ultimately for them, they had a terrible start to that race, so they're probably not too unhappy with that race.
It'll be Jeremy Deutsche Bank that looks to be locking in the 8th position. And then the battle for the scraps that are left. Mubadala Brazil, Martini Grail trying to get her team some points here as Switzerland trying to make a move as well. And North Star Canada on the outside looking in here. The race is on. The battle is on for that 9th place.
Just rolling into a job.
I don't think Sebastian Snyder's going to get her.
I think it's, we're going to look back at the fleet there. We can see the German boat coming across the finish line there. Mubadala, Brazil, that's a nice job because this is a really new team. Sibello, Goodison, they couldn't get out here for some family reasons there. So we've got Rich Mason in at the back. They've had to bring in Jeremy Wilmot doing the doing the wing trim on board that Mubadala Brazil. So a whole new team, and they've had to work really, really hard here as Canada dived inside Switzerland. Switzerland first on the foils, but they're fighting over the final point up for grabs here.
1 point available as Martini Grail and Mubadala Brazil will claim 9th, and now they will fight it out. A drag race here in Sydney Harbor. Who is going to take that final point? And right now the advantage going the way of Sebastian Snyder and the Swiss.
It's favored at the top.
SailGP, Stevie, as we've learned in many seasons past, every single point matters on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bad start for North Star and Switzerland here. They've already got work to do, but, well, yeah, it's tricky racing, isn't it? I think it's very easy to have a bad one out there today.
So 1 race down, 3 more to go here in this iconic racetrack. Let's go back and take a look at the highlights from race number 1.
And it was Rockwool, Denmark and Emirates GBR who hit the line really nicely with speed in the middle of the line. Artemis just being squeezed out at the top, but it was all about sailing the boat fast to reach Mark 1 first. From there, Rockwool, they all spread, kind of took their speed all the way towards the boundary. But for me, Gate 2 was really interesting. We had a big split at the bottom with Rockwool Denmark heading to the right-hand side of the course, allowing Emirates GBR to split, which ultimately led to a lead change at the top of Gate 3.
Yeah, I think if we learn anything from this race, it's if you can stretch away from a gate and find a bit of space, you can keep yourself in breeze, and that was the winning moment really by the Bonds Flying Rouge. The top of the screen there, they pushed wide, they got down the downwind leg in one manoeuvre, and I think that the edges of the course away from boats, massively more power available.
So a beautiful shot as Emirates GBR brings it across and the Bonds Flying Rouge gets the win. Well, when you win a race by that kind of margin, the accolades continue to roll in, and the Emirates fly time goes the way of the home team in 99.1%, Stevie, which basically says they did not have any bad maneuvers.
No, they did a very nice job out there, sailing it pretty smooth, given how tricky it is.
So we've completed one race and 3 more still to go here in the Harbor City. You're watching the KPMG Sydney Sail Grand Prix, part of the Rolex SailGP Championship.
Auckland last weekend was, of course, a weekend that drew global attention. Can you just give us an update on how Manon is doing now in her recovery?
Manon is fine. She just spent 2 weeks at the hospital. She would like to thank SailGP and also the fans for the support. It's an unfortunate situation. Both boats were not in a good shape.
It's good to hear that both athletes are recovering. The response from both the teams and the response team has been really, really good.
For me, Artemis is a real contender for this season. I'm sure these guys will push hard for this weekend.
I've got a lot of people coming down from Lake Macquarie to come and cheer on hopefully Sweden this time and not the Aussies like they often do.
We made, I think, 7 or 8 finals in the last year and didn't get a win, and it was frustrating. We've got amazing sailors on our team, and to not win an event in anything for a year was really tough for us all, and we're all sort of thinking about it a lot. I mean, even if we weren't speaking about it openly, I think it was weighing on us. In Olympic class sailing, we always look at the British as our main rivals. Here in SailGP, they're always our main rival. We're looking at the top team, and it's no doubt that they're the top team at the moment, the way they finished last season.
We're one of the benchmark teams, but this league is so tough. It really does have the best sailors with the best equipment, and the racing's phenomenal.
Here's the Emirates winning moment. That's going to the Emirates GBR team.
This weekend we're missing 2 crew members, and I think it's going to be something that's going to unite a lot of the team. And everybody's got to be doing a little bit extra to make this work.
Margins are incredibly finite. The difference between finishing in the back couple and right at the top of the leaderboard really isn't that much. Yeah, it's just about doing lots of little things a little bit better.
Waves crash underneath, sound like thunder speaking. Flying carbon machines driven by the world's best. Yes, powered by nature, powered by nature. We are SailGP.
Beautiful day in Sydney as we get ready for race number 2 as the fans get themselves into position to watch some more exciting racing here on Harbor City, and beautiful setup here with the Opera House in the background. This is the KPMG Sydney Sail Grand Prix, part of the Rolex SailGP Championship. Todd Harris, Stevie Morrison, Hannah Diamond, and Lisa Darmanin with you. So now we get ready for our second race of 4, under 90 seconds to go before the start of this one, and it looks like the conditions are similar to what we saw in race number 1. Under 120 to go, Italy, Red Bull Italy, the first team into the start box. Hannah, how do you see this thing changing from race number 2, or from race number 1, excuse me?
Well, I think Artemis got shut out at the top, so the team's going to have to be really careful they don't end up in that same position for this race. Really costly for them in that first race.
Watch out, Canada, 25.
So 1 minute away before the start of race number 2 here in Sydney Harbor. This is the beautiful Harbor City, and there you see Shark Island at the top of your screen, which will come into play. We'll have more on that as we check in with Lisa Darmanin. All right, Stevie, how do you like the setup here? Who do you think have put themselves in the best position?
A lot of the boats a bit earlier back this time, Todd, so I like the positioning there for the teams. They've obviously learnt, they'll have been looking at that timing. The coaches on the shore would have analysed that, but we can see right-hand side here, Rockwool Denmark have got a chance at a run up here. They could wind things up. Rolex pole predictors on Mubadala Brazil, but it's going to be hard to accelerate from there. Bond's Flying Rouge, they're in disturbed wind out the back, bottom of our screen as well, struggling to find a gap. If they can get foiling, they're going to have a chance at it, but I don't like where they are at the moment with 16 seconds to go. The Swiss and the Spanish, top of the screen. Can they accelerate the boat and hit the line? Spain's foiling at the top of the line, not sure if there's going to be a gap. It's all about lining it up now, the Swiss. Could they go from 0 to hero in race 2 here in Sydney? What a start by Seb Schneider when he needed it. They're going to roll over the top of the fleet, and it should be a big lead for the Swiss at Mark 1, and Los Gallos on board the Spanish boat. They're coming in hot too.
And big problems in the back of the start box for Artemis and Rockwool Denmark. They are off the foils, as are the Bond's Flying Rouge. And now we turn our attention to the front of the fleet. It is Switzerland, it is Los Gallos, Spain, and Mubadala Brazil, top 3.
going to learn all about this Swiss team now, because they've got every chance here. They've started beautifully now in a big gust of wind, the darker patch of water there. That's what the sailors are looking for. That's how they read the breeze. If it's darker, there's more wind. Right-hand side of screen, Emirates GBR off the foils. A lot of the boats that were good in race one are out the back. It's going to be that kind of weekend, Todd. Hard to be consistent.
A nice lefty coming at the boundary.
So expect to see all of these boats kind of stretch their way out to the boundary so they don't have to make their first manoeuvre and sail back through the disturbed wind. All the boats are still on that first leg creating for the leading boats.
So you've got Switzerland, Spain, and Brazil, 1, 2, and 3, and then a massive gap back to US SailGP team, currently in fourth as they make the turn at mark number 1. So Stevie, the question is this the kind of race course today with the conditions that lend itself to making up and making passes?
Yeah, I mean, there's a saying in England that it's not all over till the fat lady sings, and that is for sure the game here. The ferry, till you cross that finish line, anything can happen out there, for sure. But once you're out in front like this, I think it's about focusing on the basics. And the basics are keep the boat fast so you can execute foiling manoeuvres and have a look for breeze.
I like the right turn at the bottom.
Okay, so Sebastian Snyder tipping his hand just a little bit, wants to make a right turn at the bottom, and there's the maneuver. Comes in at the DP World Gate, gate number 2. Did he make the right call? Well, let's check in with the smartest people down on the water, Lisa Darmanin and Content Delapierre. Lisa, what do you like, and did the Swiss make a good call there?
Left all the way.
Yeah, I think they made a good call, but you know what? We're having 30-degree shifts out here. There's big clouds everywhere, so you know it's really hard to call, but they're doing such a good job to get around the racetrack. Content, what do you think? Is the right turn the good way to go?
Yeah, I pretty like the right turn, and yeah, I mean massive. I mean the fleet is super spread everywhere in the race course, so yeah, just looking for pressure, and for the moment I agree with you, right turn at the bottom looks good.
Content, we're just watching Mubadala Brazil. They're going round in third position right now. Can you explain to us how hard it is to bring in a new wing trimmer and a new strategist to a team and then be sailing this well?
10 seconds.
It looks like it's not that new. Honestly, they are putting together some really nice maneuvers. But of course, it's the worst condition for new flight controllers. A lot of transitions, doing H1, skimming, foiling. Truly not the day you want as a new wing trimmer.
Talk about getting thrown right in the fire. We appreciate Content Delapierre, the driver for DS Team France, joining us as their boat gets repaired. The good news is we're hearing that DS Team France, Stevie and Hannah, will be back on the line when we get to Rio. So a penalty being issued once again to Emirates GBR, so they'll have to drop back, currently in 7th place. The leaders right now out on the water in race number 2 at Switzerland, Sebastian Snyder. Los Gallos sits in 2nd, so it's Switzerland, Spain, and then 3rd is Mubadala Brazil, some 150 meters back.
Yeah, we can see that the wind's really shifting a lot here. We saw them pulling the wing sail way up above the middle of the boat there to try and keep it foiling. They are foiling, but look, top of the wing there, 31 kilometers an hour, just fast enough to foil on board Switzerland. The Spanish are fast. Spain should be able to do a foiling maneuver here, and the Swiss are going to struggle. Good chance for Spain to make some meters back.
Touch and go, what do we want?
I think you needed to have decided that before the manoeuvre, mate. That's not something you do halfway through the manoeuvre. You've got to decide if it's touch and go, whether you're fast enough early, but Spain didn't foil, so it should be all good for the Swiss here.
It's a right turn and jibes.
Oh, it sounds risky to me to go for that right turn and jibe. They're just adding more manoeuvres, but they're the ones that can see the pressure on the water. If it was me, I'd be wanting to make the course as simple as possible.
Yeah, I think there's time when you bear away from the wind at the top here, Todd. That's your chance to accelerate and get back on the foils. And you can see how slow the Swiss are. Don't be surprised to see Los Gallos here get up and foiling and take a left turn like Hannah says. I like that call.
So there are the Swiss basically parked at gate number 3 right now, and the big question for Los Gallos and Diego Botín is, does he follow them and see that, or does he read it? And exactly what he does, Stevie, he's opting for the other side.
He's taking a swip, but he's having to drop the foil, you see, to keep the hull up in there. It's gone a step lighter out there on the water. Lisa, have we seen a big drop in the wind here, or have they just struggled since they fell off the foils?
Well, the Swiss are actually just about to go into a big gust of wind. There's a big cloud that's come over the racetrack. It's rotating the wind right and bringing in a good bit of pressure. So we're going to actually see a punch in the wind here. Still going to be super variable and tough, but the Swiss have actually made the right call here, I think.
Penalty Australia, port tack boat not keeping clear, go behind GBR.
Oh, GBR are deep as well, right-hand side of the screen. There we go, we see the umpire studio there. That was the voice of chief umpire, Craig Mitchell, dishing out the penalty. And that's going to be a costly one for the Bonds Flying Roos. Got to drop back behind the British. That's a lot of meters, and they're already both at the back of the pack.
And this is like 4 of 6, so not a lot of time for Tom Slingsby and the winners of race number 1 to get points back. Meanwhile, Los Gallos, Spain, they are up and foiling, Stevie, and looking very good. Hannah, this is a great race for them. We talked about this before we came on air. They were looking very smooth, and if they're in rhythm, this is a very dangerous team.
Yeah, they were looking really smooth in the training before racing, and we know that when they get going, they can be really dangerous.
Yeah, look at that, the Oracle Cloud left-hand side here. It said the Spanish were in more wind. So potentially 1 kilometre an hour more wind is potentially like 2.5, 3 kilometres an hour more boat speed. They're so efficient with the breeze they use out here. So just a very small percentage gain in wind speed can be a big percentage gain. Looks to me like Los Gallos have got the overtake. It did pay for that right turn, and at gate 4 it looks pretty good for the Spanish.
And great movement from US SailGP team as they currently now sit in 3rd place. So it's Spain, Switzerland, and the US top 3 here in race number 2, with Mubadala Brazil dropping back to 4th and Red Bull Italy now in 5th.
Tell you what, that was a good manoeuvre at the bottom gate there, wasn't it?
Want to control and tack early?
Agree.
Your side following, no
Yeah,
rush.
top of screen. See where the Artemis team are there? Massive dark patch of water. The Wind Whisperers sniffed one out up there. Chance to gain, but will the Swiss manoeuvre early to try and get over to that wind? I think there's an opportunity for Canfield or the Swiss if they manoeuvre quickly here. Spanish have done a perfect tack though. They're boat handling, they're manoeuvring on board that Spanish burst. Get the basics right, and they've just done a beautiful job of keeping the boat foiling there. Any chance of an attack, they've really shut down here on board that Spanish boat.
Boy, Hannah, as we look at the overhead, it looks like split fleet racing because the top 6 teams are all heading down to the DP World Gate, and then there's a huge gap back to 7th place, Emirates GBR. Then you have the Bonds Flying Roos, the winners of last race, North Star Canada 9th, Germany Deutsche Bank in 10th.
Yeah, it's definitely the kind of day where you need to get out ahead in the beginning because it's really hard to catch up. The fleet's going to continue to get more spread out, and it's much easier to pick your way around the course when you're ahead.
Here we go, we're set up here, we see the Spanish. I think we heard the voices of Botin there saying, I don't think we make it in 1. So they're just going to be fast. They've got to do 2 manoeuvres to make this left-hand side of our screens the mark they're going to. Switzerland and Spain both have to do 2 manoeuvres. But look how fast the Spanish have got the boat, trying to keep it foiling here if they can. But they're a little bit late with that manoeuvre on board Spain. They weren't set. They foil though, what a turn. Brilliant execution by the Spanish. They will own the top mark here, and it should be a chance to win for them here as they foil away.
Might be the move of the race as the Spanish get it done as they pull into 1st place ahead of Switzerland. And now Taylor Canfield, he's thinking about, do I pick up another position? Currently sitting in 3rd place. Seb Schneider now trying to defend his position.
Yeah, look at Mubadala Brazil as well. And straight up the racetrack, but they've got to give way to the US team. Right of way with the US here. Canfield's back in it. The Swiss have parked at the final mark here. They've absolutely stopped the Swiss boat, but they have a chance to accelerate now. Big gust of wind on the mark. Excellent by the US SailGP team, and it's a race to the finish. Acceleration's the key. Swiss are foiling.
Yeah, the Swiss are back up now. They're first to foil, so maybe they'll salvage this 2nd place. Meanwhile, at the finish line, the Emirates winning moment will go the way of the champions from season 4. Los Gallos, Spain, pick up the victory in race number 2 here in Sydney. And the Swiss, nice rebound, Stevie.
Yeah, they did a great job. They stayed really calm there. They let the US team in. They knew they were going to have the right of way, and then they've really pulled it through. Massive result for the Swiss team, because I know we're early in the season, but if you're bottom of the table on the overall and you're bottom of the table in this event here in Sydney, then you start to have a problem. So huge result for the Swiss. Working hard on the handles there, Stu Dodson, and he'll be happy with that race as the US team. A good one for Canfield, moved up. And talking of moving up, Red Bull Italy, Phil Robertson, he's got a bit of a taste for it today.
Red Bull Italy will finish in 4th place, and now the battle is on for 5th. Here comes the Wind Whisperer himself, Nathan Outteridge. He is full gas to the finish line, and he is going to overtake Mubadala Brazil, so Artemis picks up another spot. They will finish in 5th.
Yeah, if you want to see the difference a bit of extra drag makes, that was a pretty good example of it right there. Foiling, not foiling, I know what I'd rather be doing.
Mubadala Brazil will hold on, it looks like, for 6th place, as Emirates GBR is going to try to make this a little closer, but I just not sure Mubadala Brazil's going to have the pressure to get across the line. Here comes Dylan Fletcher and the Brits trying to close the gap. And it looks like they're going to come up just a little bit short as Mubadala Brazil able to cross the line and hold on to that 6th place with Emirates GBR finishing in 7th. 2 races up, 2 more to go. The racing's just starting to heat up here at the KPMG Sydney Sail Grand Prix.
Just come to us.
And the Bonds Flying Rouge will hold on for 8. So is that Tom Slingsby's worst performance of the weekend? Remember, we always say you can have 1 bad race here in the 2-day races, but you can't have 2. And so the Bonds Flying Rouge, the winners of race number 1, they drop back and finish 8th in race 2.
I think this event, Todd's going to be high scoring. The stand of the fleet's so much higher than we've seen in previous seasons. All boats can win races. We've seen that now. We know that. That's a true fact. See Rockwool Denmark here in 10th. You know, they were 2nd place in race 1. So that ability to actually be consistent is so hard. Germany, Deutsche Bank are going to come across in 9th.
Okay.
They need to make things start to happen for them as well. And North Star Canada back in 11th as well.
So the Germans cross in 9th. Rockwool Denmark look to be grabbing 10th, and North Star Canada will hold on for 11th and no points. All right, let's go back and look at the start. Hannah and Stevie, where this thing all turned. What a start for the Swiss.
Yeah, really risk-reward for the Swiss there. They came in at the top of the line, not guaranteed a space, but really fast, getting over the top of Mubadala Brazil and Los Gallos joining them to be fast on that first leg to Mark 1 and get away from the fleet nice and early.
Yeah, no, we saw how well the Swiss can sail the boat. They kept it pretty fast on this downwind. They did a nice job. Great decision at gate 2. And I think really for me, and you heard it, Hannah, you picked it at the top at gate 3. It just got a little bit rushed and panicked. And I think if you know anything, keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah, that's right. And we saw the boat go really slow, just struggling to stay foiling in some of the maneuvers with some of the changeable conditions. I think you've got to be really decisive on a day like today. You can't enter a maneuver not sure how you're going to come out of it. And we just heard a little bit of uncertainty on board the Swiss boat, and that's where Los Gallos, they're so strong. And when they're on a roll, then they can be really dangerous. So kind of making it easy for them to get past. Really nice sailing, but it all came down to that finish, didn't it? With the wind shadow underneath Shark Island really pushing this race to the end of the finish line. Nothing was guaranteed until they got to that finish line, and Los Gallos ultimately taking the win in race 2.
So 2 races, 2 different winners. This time the Emirates fly time goes the way of Red Bull Italy with Phil Robertson getting the job done. What a great job by them coming from behind and pick up some valuable points. They go 88.2% to get top honors in the Emirates Fly Time Award. So it's tight at the top as we take a look at the standings after 2 races. Los Gallos leads the way, 2 points clear of Red Bull Italy, who sit at 2nd. A tie for 3rd between US SailGP and the Bonds Flying Rouge, but the Americans would get the tiebreaker because they finished higher in the last race. So that's how it sits, but we still have a lot of races still to go. Plenty of works for Bonds Flying Rouge, Emirates GBR, and the Swiss with that massive 2nd in the 2nd race vaults them up into a 3-way tie with Artemis and Rockwool Racing.
And if we look back at some of the statistics from that race, you can see that the key here was really keeping your average speed high, just making sure that you don't drop off the foil, don't drop any maneuvers, because finding your way around the course, it's not about your top speed, it's all about keeping the boat rumbling through the changes in pressure around the course, and that's what Los Gallos did really nicely. You can see a couple of different teams picking up some of the best optimal kind of metrics across this race, so it's a really changeable day. We're looking forward to race 3.
11 boats racing here in the Harbor City after that major incident in Auckland between the Black Foils and DS Team France. But what was the cause of the crash, and how is SailGP working to prevent such incidents happening again? Let's break down what happened with some of those on the ground for that heart-stopping moment in New Zealand.
Data shows that both boats were screaming down the reach. New Zealand was going very quickly. They basically, what happened was they encountered a gust, quite a strong gust, accelerated the boat.
Yeah, sharp up on it, 3, Lynn. 2, 1, now.
As the gust hit, the boat started to rise.
Italy!
Flight controller took off quite a lot of rake. The boat kept on rising, enough for the foil to pierce. And at that point, with a lot of cant, windward heel, the boat basically started to slide sideways And once it started sliding, it started generating lift from the leeward slide, and no matter what the flight controller did, it just kept sliding. The flight controller did hit the electronic rate limiter, but yeah, we don't know whether that would have helped or not if he could have gone further.
So when we're flying the boat, we're trying to give enough lifting force into the dagger board to overcome the weight and the downward forces in the boat. And obviously we want to have as few things in the water as possible. So with that in mind, we're putting a rake number into the dagger board. But obviously when we get too high on the ride height, we obviously want to bring the boat down. So we want to put in sort of a negative lifting force into that, which is something that's really, really complicated to do, especially when you're doing it at close to 100 kilometers an hour.
And what we're doing for this event is we're basically introducing some new software, detects when the boat is sliding, and when that happens it will allow more negative rake to the maximum extent that the case can provide. Until we have another severe slide, we won't know if that's effective or not. The other area that we're changing, agreement with the flight controllers, is that we're changing the sensitivity range on their inputs. So they should have basically more effect at higher speed.
Once you start going 12 knots sideways, no matter how it grips, it's going to be a pretty bad crash. Whether it gripped earlier or whether it gripped later and maybe hit the Italian boat, I think that it was going to happen no matter what.
Well, it was a heart-stopping moment, but the wizards at SailGP Technologies taking parts of that New Zealand boat, helping the French get back on the water for the race in Rio. Short time ago, Lisa Darmanin with Content de la Pierre.
All right, Content, great to have you out here, but we all want to know, how's it looking for the rebuild? How's the boat and how's the team?
Yeah, it looks like the boat is okay. Yeah, they rebuilt quite quickly in Auckland, and Russell Coutts just announced at the press conference that we will be on the starting line in Rio, so I'm quite happy with that. It's a good news. And yeah, just have to manage the frustration to not be able to sail here. But I think both Philippe Mourniac and Philippe Presti are managing quite well this frustration coming from the athlete. So yeah, cross fingers for Rio.
And we've got Content de la Pierre all day long down on the water with Lisa Darmanin. Well, 2 races in, and for the Bonds Flying Roos, it's been a mixed first day on home waters. The Southern Hemisphere is usually a place that brings success for Tom Slingsby's team. We sat down with the Roos to find out exactly why. The champions here in Auckland. Once again, it's the Bonds Flying Roos 2 years in a row.
The reason we've been successful in New Zealand and mainly Auckland is for those conditions that they've provided. Windy, shifty, last year was big waves. The really challenging conditions are what we like to sail in as Aussies. We thrive in strong winds, and that's really suited us.
Awesome.
SailGP is so competitive now, you can't just be good for a couple of events. We've always tried to keep it consistent throughout the year, and that means there's certain situations around the racetrack where we possibly could have pushed it a bit harder, but we've made the decision that we didn't want to risk it.
I've been sort of trying to get Goobs for a little while with our team, and unfortunately it hasn't played out that way. He is an unbelievable sailor, yet I've never been able to sail with him. We were able to secure him and get him off the British team, bring him back to Australia.
I've been pretty open with Ben, CEO of the team, about wanting to represent my own country for the last couple of years. At some point, represent my own country for the last couple of years. At some point, everyone wants to sail for their country, don't they? So, yeah, I'm stoked to be back here.
With the growth of our team, with Bonds coming on, with Maximum Effort coming on, we're getting more and more sponsorship and more attention. For that to have finally happened is, a bit of a breath of fresh air for us.
We're in an amazing situation right now with 2 celebrity owners who made that all happen, really. The amount of exposure they gave us when they took over the team allowed for all these partners to come on board, and so we're successful off the water, and hopefully we can remain successful on the water. I'm not sure if I'm a lot more calm on the water. For sure I'm older and more experienced, but I'm still pretty fiery on the water. I have my moments, that's for sure. I'm very passionate out there, and I I say to my team, we don't accept second place.
So the three-time champions look to bounce back. Currently, after 2 races, it is Los Gallos Spain on top, then Red Bull Italy, the USA sits in 3rd, and then Australia, the Bonds Flying Rouge in 4th, with Emirates GBR, the defending champions of last season, in 5th.
Hey, Germany, go through, blow past us. Now.
Yeah, I think this will be a high-scoring one, though, Todd. I think this is different to normal. It's so shifty and gusty out there. It's all about trying to control what you can control as a team. And I think the one thing you can really control is either being fast, keeping the boat quick, or minimising the distance you sail.
Racing happy. Copy down.
So 1 minute away before the start of race number 3. We're scheduled for 4 races today. Hannah Diamond, whose position do you like in this start?
Well, I think one big change we've had coming into this race, we've only got 4 people on board now, so some of those roles are going to be jigged a little bit, and I really like where Rockwool Denmark is, as long as they can get their time and distance right. I think leading back in these conditions is good.
Okay, nice press there.
Right-hand side of the screen, the Rolex pole predictor sits on the US SailGP team right now. We've seen that top of the line being a pretty safe bet, but if you can make it there in time, USA and Spain are going to need to wind it up fairly soon. Artemis, middle of the line. Are they going to get a decent start? Yet to have a good one so far. North Star are struggling at the moment, and Rockwool Denmark and the Bonds Flying Rouge look pretty close to the line with only 16 seconds to go. The US SailGP team are foiling, but where's he going to put that US boat? I don't see a very easy gap to fit through. Phil Robertson on Red Bull Italy lines it up. We're looking for the line turn white. Australia are going to be over here. Massive tight incident at the top of the line for the US team. They forced the Swiss out of the way.
Early start penalty, Germany, Australia, Denmark.
Oh, Phil Robertson shut the door on the US and the
Delayed
Swiss at the top.
starters, USA, Switzerland, Brazil.
And Los Gallos from nowhere have jumped over the top. Right, I think it's important to just say right now, those early starters, the boats with the S at the top of the rig, have got to go behind everyone except for the Swiss and the US team, who are going to be really delayed at the gun here. So big penalty for them. Los Gallos, Diego Bottini looked like he was out the back, but somehow Moses parting the Red Sea really was his move at the top end of the line, and it's going to be a massive lead for him. And North Star, this is your chance, North Star Canada, going to be good at Mark 1 here, as the other boats are all just parking up here trying to get back in the pack.
So a pair of Olympic gold medalists in Diego Bottini and Los Gallos, as he gets the whole shot at mark number 1, and Giles Scott of North Star Canada. If he can get that boat up and foiling, the Canadians will look very good. Meanwhile, in the back, it is an absolute stockpile of cars and boats. It is like a gridlock on the 405.
Expect the Spanish to really stretch away. Artemis there, they've managed to find space. They're at foiling speed, so finally the Swedish team have a decent position, and they might even get past North Star Canada here at Mark 1. They might roll right around the outside. So Nathan Outeridge, he normally loves these shifty conditions, but he hasn't even been able to start a lawnmower so far today. Finally in the race at Mark 1, and the Swedish team going to be chasing down those Spaniards.
Really nice that they're up and foiling at that point as well, because it's much easier to get up on the foils when you're on that first leg than it is when you're going downwind.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the Canadians and North Star Canada are going to need to sail nearly upwind to generate the wind speed over the boat to get foiling. So it's all very well right now. We see these boats out in front. Any mistake on the manoeuvring here, well, you can lose a bit. It looks like we're going to see a big pile up in the pack out the back here. Los Gallos, well, they like the right turn at the bottom. Priority for them simple, keep the boat fast and just keep your head out, look for those dark patches of water.
Now it's going to get tricky for the Spaniards as they drop both holes in the water, maybe just one right now as they make the turn of the DP World Gate with a massive lead. Here comes Artemis and Nathan Outeridge. They sit firmly in second.
Yeah, looks like a long way to sail to that left turn, but I can see wind up under Shark Island at the moment. I don't know what you're seeing on the water, Lisa. It looks pretty variable out there, but Nathan looks like he might split the course here.
Oh, it's so variable out here and so hard to see. You know, we're doing twilight racing, it's beautiful, but it's really actually hard to read the wind on the water. One thing I like about what Artemis is doing is, whilst there's a little bit of wind over there, they're staying away from the congestion of the fleet that's still sailing down the course because the fleet's so spread out. So I think they'll be in a little bit cleaner air, but I'm going to ask Conto, how does he think Nathan Outeridge is doing right now?
Yeah, it's kind of a balance. I really like the left-hand side, but staying on the foil is quite key in these conditions, so we'll see what. It's quite a good move.
Trying to keep it just foiling if you can.
Tell you what, the fan boat right there at the DP World Gate, they're getting a pretty good shot. I don't know if they're too close, but they are getting a front row seat. But they are getting a front row seat to the best sailors in the world as Phil Robertson and Red Bull Italy sit in third place. Martini Grail's got Mubadala Brazil sitting in fourth. Emirates GBR has extracted themselves from the logjam. They sit in fifth place. North Star Canada, who looked to be in second but just didn't have the breeze, they've dropped back to sixth.
Yeah, and you can see top of our screen there, Artemis Shower's leading at the moment. So he's heading out to that blue lay line. That's the line that suggests you should be able to make the next gate with no more manoeuvres, but a lot will come down to this manoeuvre. Andy Maloney, well, he's normally so slick on those wheels. Looks like a gain potentially here. As we see the Emirates GBR boat, they're foiling as well in the middle of the pack, so a chance to gain. If you're foiling, you're probably going to be gaining.
What has happened to Rockwell Racing after finishing second in race number 1? They've dropped back 10th in race number 2, and they find themselves dead last here in race number 3.
Just not got off the start line, Todd. It's so hard in that start box because it's so variable. Skyos, they're just sailing the boat nicely, aren't they, Han?
Yeah, they're doing a really nice job. It did look like Artemis had made quite a big gain to them, but they've just managed to manoeuvre back, coming towards gate 3. And stay up on the foil, whereas Artemis have dropped off, which might have opened the door for Red Bull Italy, who are catching up quite quickly, actually.
I think Artemis just maybe got a little bit in the Shark Island, but we're going to turn the boat away from the wing. Wing trimmer needs to adjust the wing sail. Flight controller's got to put a little bit of extra lift on as it takes the extra inside of the turn, but then don't put too much because the boat's going to accelerate and you've got to back it off again. It's so dynamic as they manoeuvre the boat there. Wind's changing, angle's changing, every control's changing, and we see top of the screen, Artemis. They're up and foiling again, but they've lost distance to Italy. They might be able to roll over the top of Red Bull Italy before this gate 3 here.
Yep, rolling away in 5.
Nathan doesn't look stressed out, does he?
So Nathan Outers puts himself and Artemis in his second place, just ahead of Phil Robertson and Red Bull Italy. They sit in third, and now it's the proverbial salt in the wound as Diego Boutin is now lapping boats out on course as he is on leg 4 of 6. As we go back to the start of this one, Stevie, this was crazy because it looked like there was no way Spain had a shot as Taylor Canfield tried to thread the needle and got stuck.
Yeah, you see, there's not allowed to go inside that mark you can see in the middle of the screen, and Red Bull Italy there. Red Bull owned the mark, so Canfield took the right decision. I mean, he took it very, very late. That mark was so close, but that's why they're the best sailors in the world. The judgment was spot on, but you see for the Swiss and the US SailGP team, it was absolute last-minute evasive action, and as soon as it's that shifty in the start box and that gusty, you've got to build margin into your start plan if you want to have a safe chance of getting there. And we'll come back to the race. It's pretty confusing out there right now because you can see the Germans, as you say, were about to be potentially lapped by the Spanish here. Rockwool Denmark have been lapped by Los Gaios, so Rockwool Denmark are a whole lap behind here, but they still have the right of way over Artemis Racing. Artemis Racing have got to keep it clear. The race is between Spain and Artemis, as we see that out here on the water, but Spain look pretty good, and Contan look that left-hand side. Spain's going back there again. Top of the screen, the bombs flying roofs, they're way out the back as well, Todd. It's going to be some serious points flying around here. Spain are going to be looking pretty good on this leaderboard, I'd have said right now. And some teams are already in panic mode.
I think one of the problems with that left turn at the bottom, which is why a lot of the boats are choosing to turn right here, is if you turn left, you end up in the lee and the dirty air up behind Shark Island almost twice because you're sailing towards the island. You've got to come back. You can see where the Bonds Flying Roos are on the left of the screen now. They're just coming out of that wind shadow. So by the boats turning right, they're just giving themselves the best chance to sail in the clearest air possible.
Spain are off the foils, middle of our screen here. Artemis, bottom right-hand corner of our screen. Well, they're going to have a problem with Rockwool being a little bit in their way, but they're foiling right now and they're fast. If they can stay on the foils in this manoeuvre, they're going to give themselves a chance on that final upwind leg. Emirates GBR chase down Mubadala Brazil in the pack. They've got to watch out for the Germans.
Let's get fast.
Los Gaios are foiling here. They look pretty good. Bottom of the screen, Artemis. Middle of the screen, Los Gaios and Spain. That's the race.
And there you see the boat positions, courtesy of the Oracle Cloud. Los Gaios, mark number 1, they were in first. They are still in first. Emirates GBR were in 6th. They've dropped back to 5th. And North Star Canada really missing out. They were second place at mark 1, Stevie. Now they sit in 6th, way back.
Yeah, it's been a bit of the story of their day, unfortunately. I just think they're not quite executing very good manoeuvres out there, and that's putting them on the back foot the whole time. You see here, Los Gallos, I mean, we thought they looked good before the start, didn't we, Hannah? We were watching them sail around, and they just were doing good manoeuvres. The platform looked pretty stable. I think they're going to have a big lead here, because Artemis, bottom of our screen, they're still second, just ahead of the Italians, but they're not in a lot of breeze on that side of the course.
Yeah, Los Gallos doing double the speed of Artemis, so just definitely pulling away. They just look so cool, calm and collected in these conditions, which is not easy. It's not an easy day to sail the boat at all, so the fact that they can keep the tempo down, pick away around the course and nail all their boat handling manoeuvres is making it look pretty easy for them right now.
Yeah, I mean, we hear a lot about, you know, Diego Botín and Florian Trittel, of course, that gold medal winning team, but I think Joel Rodriguez, the flight controller on the Spanish boat, he's a pretty, you know, he's a bit of an underrated superstar, I'd say, because as soon as it gets like this, he seems very, very good at managing that flight. And they're going to manoeuvre here, Todd. They're lining themselves up for the finish. Great news for Spanish fans.
So for the second race in a row, the folks on Shark Island are going to get a front row seat to see Los Gallos, the champions of Season 4, bring it across for yet another win with one more race still to go as the sun begins its slow set. And it will be the Spanish that bring it across the line. The Emirates winning moment as Nicole Vandervelde manning the handles up front. Remember, we're down to 4 athletes on board. And look at this, Artemis and Red Bull Italy going to have a little something. Before we get to that, though, the Emirates winning moment will go the way of Los Gallos. The Spanish win race number 3.
Yeah, and Artemis have got the right of way here. And don't expect to see Alteridge giving in. He's going to push that as wide as possible, but Italy will now be quicker. We saw it in the last race. It's now a race to the foils. Right of way is still with Artemis Racing, but it's all about boat speed. Look at the top of the wing. First boat to 30 will be the first boat foiling. Looks like Artemis have managed to execute that well. They're up and foiling. Red Bull Italy are up and foiling, but right of way still with Artemis, and the Swedish team should be able to bring it home for a second place, and that's going to get them back in the game. But Red Bull Italy relentlessly consistent, that Italian boat out here today. What a fight. Yeah, there you go, Nathan. Quite right, mate. It is easier with a better start.
So second place belongs to Artemis as they hold off Phil Robertson and Red Bull Italy, who will finish in third. A nice drag race to the finish in front of Shark Island as race number 3 comes to a conclusion as the Swedes and the Italians battle it out for big points. So now it's all about who can collect the most points towards the back of the fleet, and it looks like Martini Grail is going to try to hold off Dylan Fletcher, but same situation here, Stevie and Hannah, but this time the Brits are up on the foils quicker.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so hard in these conditions to actually do. I mean, they're doing such a good job on board Mubadala Brazil to be in the fight at the end of all these races. And right now, Emirates GBR, they've got the right of way. Here you go. He comes at them there, aggressive from Fletcher. Mubadala Brazil have got to keep clear.
They've got
to react. I think they're a little slow reacting. I think maybe they just kept it clean, but you can see there aggression from Fletcher. And he's going to go at them again, I'd imagine now. Suddenly now the right of way goes to Mubadala Brazil.
And Martini Grail answers back.
That was really good work there.
So Brazil holds on for that third place finish. Emirates GBR will grab 4th, and what a great race in race number 3. As we go down on the water now, and we check in with the winners of races 2 and 3. Congratulations go to Los Gallos, Diego Botín and company. Diego, congratulations. What has been the difference for you guys in the last 2 races? Because in race number 1, you finished in 5th.
Yeah, I mean, conditions are super tricky and the start is super important, and we managed to get foiling out of it and in good shape now. I think that was the key, biggest key, and then try to sail the boat as smooth as possible between the casting lulls.
Diego, I know for sure that your coach Hamish Wilcox will be telling you to control the controllables. What do you think those controllables are out there today?
Well, it's hard to say, no? I think you need to stay on the present, on where you are. Look, the pressure is slightly ahead, and yeah, try to predict what mark to turn to get faster around the course, no? So yeah, not look too much ahead and sail the boat in the present.
Diego, muchas gracias. We will see you in the 4th and final race of the day as Los Gallos gets 2 wins in a row, winning races 2 and 3. All right, let's go back to the start with a beautiful rainbow in the distance here in the Harbor City, guys. That was a great race.
Yeah, and we've been saying how important the start is, and that build up to the start, the positioning of the boats. We had the US really high risk start here, and just Phil Robertson and Red Bull Italy just shutting the door, making Taylor Canfield tack around, maneuver away from that start line before they could come back and restart. And we talk about lining up with speed. Los Gallos came from nowhere, from behind the fleet. A gap opened up for them, which just allowed them to get over the top of Red Bull Denmark with speed and lead at Mach 1.
Yeah, 100 metres behind the line when the gun went, and they just threaded the needle, didn't they? And interesting there, what Diego said, try and stay present. And I think staying present on a day like this is really, really hard. But again, it's all you can do. Keep the boat fast, Todd. That's the golden message.
And no surprise, the Emirates Fly Time Award goes the way of the winners of the last two races. Los Gallos, Spain, with a 92.8% fly time out on a very tricky course with very unpredictable breezes as they now turn their attention to the fourth and final race of the day. What a shot here as you look at the headlands outside of Sydney, and look at this. Los Gallos increasing their lead up to 4 points now. Red Bull Italy sits in second. Artemis now in the top three, and Emirates GBR and Bonds Flying Ruse also making some move. Tough race for US SailGP team. They were in third. They dropped back to eighth. Rockwell Racing still trying to find their way after finishing second in race number one. But one more race to go until we put a cap on day number one. What a day of racing on the twilight hour as the sun begins to set here in beautiful Sydney as we continue the racing here at the KPMG Sydney Sail Grand Prix, part of the Rolex SailGP Championship.
Perth, Western Australia hosted the opening event of a brand new SailGP season. Alongside the Fremantle Doctor, the cool wind that hits the coast every afternoon, it delivered exciting racing and plenty of drama.
Oh my days! And a big crash in the middle!
The sea state quickly became a major talking point, with choppy conditions turning every manoeuvre into a challenge.
Getting spicy, isn't it?
The final on day two ended with a familiar sight, Emirates GBR on the podium. Their ability to manage the strong winds and challenging sea state proved crucial in the final race.
Go! It's go time!
The race began at breathtaking speed, with Dylan Fletcher and Quentin Delapierre going head-to-head into the first mark. Tom Slingsby followed close behind after serving a boundary penalty in the Prix start. However, Oracle Insights data shows us that Fletcher's team nailed their timing at the start, with a distance to line of just 19.2 metres and a fastest speed before Mark 1 of 84.9 kilometres an hour. Getting to the front of the fleet was pivotal for them, as they'd not lost the place to a team behind them in any of the races on day two. Oracle also shows us that Emirates GBR consolidated their place at the front with efficient sailing, only using 10 manoeuvres and reducing their total distance sailed throughout the race. All three teams recorded perfect average flight times, maintaining a foiling height of around 1 metre.
Emirates GBR opened the 2026 season with a spectacular title defense and get the Emirates winning moment.
In a sport defined by fine margins, Emirates GBR's ruthlessness at the start and decision-making from the front helped them cross the line ahead of their rivals.
Waves crash underneath, sound like thunder speaking. Flying carbon machines, driven by the world's best. Yes, powered by nature, powered by nature. We are SailGP.
Welcome to Sydney, where every day begins by the sea. Swim at world-famous beaches, unwind among the harbour views of the Royal Botanic Gardens, Sydney, and experience the magic of breathtaking vistas. From vibrant waterfront dining to sparkling blue horizons, this is a city shaped by sunshine and salt water. For adventure, culture, and unforgettable coastal moments, Sydney delivers on land and on water. And just over a minute away, and now Sydney, well, you're just showing off. Look at that view. That is spectacular as all the teams get into the start box, and we approach 1 minute before the finals race of the day. Final race of the day here at the KPMG Sydney Sail Grand Prix, part of the Rolex SailGP Championship. All 11 boats now in the start box, and the voices, Hannah, a little more tension as we get ready for the last race of the day.
Yeah, that's right. I think if anything, the last 3 races have shown us how important it is to get off the line, so they'll all be jostling for position and do the best job they can.
We see here Artemis racing at the bottom of the fleet here. They're well positioned right now. Germany, Deutsche Bank, they're up and going. Spain definitely prioritising being fast. They've got the Rolex pole predictor at the top end of the line, right-hand side of our screen. 20 seconds to go, though. It's going to be about killing speed. Artemis should be able to line it up here. Bond's Flying Ruse are winding up out the back too. It's going to be an acceleration game right now. We can see there's a penalty on Germany, not keeping clear of Rockwell. Emirates GBR look to thread the needle. It's acceleration here. Look for the line to turn white. Who's got the start right?
I'm gonna go behind Germany here. I don't want to foul him.
Oh, it's brilliant out the middle by the British team there. They're going to drive over the top, I think, from here, and it's definitely going to be a sprint here. Can Artemis hang on the right-hand side of our screen there? They're going to be starting to get disturbed wind coming their way fairly soon. Bond's Flying Ruse in the pack 2. North Star, they're looking good to mark 1, but can they stay there?
Nice couple of waves there, Paco.
So the 4th and final race of the day, and it is Emirates GBR that look to have the whole shot. Artemis on the inside. It is North Star Canada to the right of the Brits as they make the turn, and it will be Dylan Fletcher and the winners of the first event of the year in Perth, Emirates GBR, that grab the whole shot.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, did a really nice job on that. Rolex sprint leader there at Mark 1. They did a fantastic job. North Star Canada, basically they have to stay there in this race if they want to keep their chances here in Sydney alive. They need a big point score in this last race of the day.
I will.
I think as we're coming on this final downwind leg, Lee, so we saw from our camera angle there's a huge rainbow, there's a massive pot of gold sitting out to sea. What do you think the teams are going to be looking at as they come into gate 2? Is there an obvious place with more breeze on the course?
I mean, the wind has rotated around to the left, so I think that that's generally the direction you want to go. But by the looks of it, if you can lay in and just do one left turn, that's what you want. Minimizing maneuvers is everything in this time. But I think what we've seen today, Quanton, is it's so hard to call the ley lines. It's always changing so much. Do you think that there's one way to go?
Yeah, stay on the full for sure, and secondly, just looking for pressure, making it simple. Really like the way the Brits are going, and yeah, see the split with the Aussies, but it looks like a bit complex.
Okay, adding some rudders.
So a tight rate course there as they get to gate number 2, the DP World Gate, and on to leg 3 of 6. This is the final race of the day. If you're new to SailGP, the situation is this. You are trying to amass as many points as possible over 7 fleet races, and then only the top 3 boats will battle out tomorrow on Super Sunday for the overall title. So right now, Hannah, you've got Emirates GBR in front. Artemis sits in 2nd. Canada holding on for dear life to 3rd.
Yeah, that's right. We saw a big split at the bottom of that course. We had Emirates GBR taking the left turn, Artemis taking a right turn. So we'll have to see how they've got on when they come back together. But it looks like the wind's a little bit lighter on Artemis at the moment. So they're just going to have to make sure they build as much speed as possible and link that patches of wind together.
And Stevie, I guess the big question is, before we finish race number 4, is what does tomorrow look like? Because that's when it's going to really come all to play.
Yeah, I think we'll wait for Lisa to tell us. The forecast I saw, it looked a little bit better. So, a little bit better. I think this is really fun racing right now. I think what's really interesting for me is we're racing later in the day. It's definitely not as easy to see the breeze on the water. The light's making it not as easy to read the wind out there. So the sailors are having to be a little bit more reactive to what they're in. Right of way, Emirates GBR. But when they come back together, it'll be Artemis that has the right of way.
Pressure this way, trying to get enough speed for tack. Only 12k on me, it might be a H1X here.
There you go, so they're planning ahead, Han.
Right here.
Yeah, and that's exactly what you've got to do. And don't forget, when there's only 4 people on board as well, you lose your strategist. That strategist goes forward into a grinding position. So that puts a lot of onus on the driver being able to look in the wind. So if your wing trimmer can help you out with that, and then you've got to know the boat really well. You've got to know what speed you've got to take off at and see how you can do the best execution of maneuvers as possible.
So Hannah Mills now going from strategist to grinder. You see her moving up in the front. And she now usually occupies the back of the cockpit. Now there you see Emirates GBR Stevie. They are really slow, just H1, one hole out of the water.
Yeah, but they're going to own this mark. They're going to look to turn left here. They're trying to shut the door. Artemis have got a fast angle, but potentially if they can get foiling here, they could roll over the top of the Bond's Flying Rouge, but it's really tightened up. It's definitely dropped off a bit. Top of the screen. Rottwell Denmark are back in the race. They managed to foil a little bit further up the beat here. Okay, Emirates GBR missed their chance to foil at that gate. This could be costly for them. Who can stay on the foils? Who can get on the foils right now?
So the Bond's Flying Rouge, winners of race number 1 in hot pursuit as they move up, and look at Artemis.
Yeah, and look at the Spanish, Todd.
Oh, tight.
The Spanish have got it on the foils. The British are up on foiling, but the Los Gallos were way out the back. They're just sailing the boat better than everyone else at the moment. They're foiling here. They're going to have to sail through the disturbed wind of Artemis, but they're making their own breeze. As soon as you're foiling like that, oh, they're dropping off. It's getting lighter.
And hook up behind Swedish Pro, you know.
Oh, that was so close for the Spanish, but they've dropped off. Big gains, though. Back in the race, up to 5th.
Nice pressure.
I think one of the important things for the sailors on board at the moment, they've got to know the boat really well. You've got to know what boat speed the boat can take off at. You've got to know what wind speed that you need to generate that boat speed. But you also got to know what's coming next. So if you're sailing into more pressure, can you accelerate the boat and choose to take off on the foil? Or are you coming into less pressure, which means you might want to choose to do an H1 exit, which is what Emirates GBR have just done here out of that jibe manoeuvre there.
As the Bond's Flying Rouge pick up a penalty for sailing outside the boundary, they'll try to absolve that as quick as possible. Meanwhile, the race is on. Stevie, to your point, I think Los Gallos, obviously they had not the best start for them, finished in 9th coming out at mark number 1, but now they've moved all the way up to 5th.
Yeah, no, they've done a really nice job. And I think what's really interesting here is we see the British off the foils. Content, I've got a question for you out there. Are you just desperately always trying to foil? Or how do you make that decision whether I foil or whether I just go a little bit less distance and slower?
Happy to take more windward when you feel it.
Yeah, that's the key question, Stevie. Honestly, I was a bit surprised to not see the Spanish taking the split at the top gate. Yeah, it's always a balance, but for sure you are way more comfortable on the foils. But you also have to think about saving meters, and yeah, it's a tricky balance all the time.
And right now, Emirates GBR are finding a very tricky balance as they are just dead in the water, both holes in the water. Everyone, it looks like the wind has just dropped out on the course. Complete snakes and ladders. Meanwhile, the Bond's Flying Rouge are 50 kilometers an hour at the top of the course. The Germans are up there as well.
Yeah, and USA SailGP team are going to go well as well. Bond's Flying Rouge are gone here. They need a good race as well. They've had a bit of an up and down day. Kind of classic Tom Slingsby, really. Either first or last seems to be the way he rolls out here. But they're sailing the boat nicely. Got themselves in it, and you can see there that those boats coming back to the bottom of our screen, there just doesn't seem to be much wind over here. The pressure they must be feeling out there right now, it's so tense. If you don't get back on the foils, you're going to lose so many places. Look at the US team, top of our screen, Todd. They're going to be 3rd here if they can execute this manoeuvre right.
There is pressure this side.
And look at that. That is a thing of beauty here in the Harbor City as the home team up on the foils, the winners of race number 1, and they're looking for a big bounce back. Remember, they finished 8th in race number 2, and then they finished 6th in race number 3.
I just think the thing is, as soon as you're up and foiling, you're going faster, and just by moving, you're making your own wind. And then the faster you go, the more wind you've got, the faster you go again. So it's just a cumulative gains. Once you get the speed built, they call it apparent wind on board the boat, but a little bit of speed, you just get faster and faster and faster and faster.
Going to be right on them.
Interestingly, Bond's Flying Rouge sailed 800 metres of investment to get on the foil, to sail into more pressure, to take the lead here. So it really shows how much distance you might have to sail, but if it puts you in more pressure, then it can be worth it.
Speaking of investment, the Bond's Flying Rouge picking up some high roller investors in the form of Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds. And I'm wondering, Steve, if they're here in town, maybe sitting on Shark Island holding down for it.
I think we saw the Bond's Flying Rouge sailing clubs out there on the water. They've gone for tickets out on the water there. I don't know if they're there. Hopefully someone will be, well, Lisa Darmanin will probably be searching them out later, I'd imagine.
Tosh Bryant up front as she's made the change from strategist to now grinder, and Taylor Canfield and the US SailGP team really nicely done. They now sit in 3rd place. This will be big points for them as Germany Deutsche Bank now sits in 2nd place with Eric Kostgarten-Heil.
Yeah, that could be a really regatta-saving race there for the US SailGP team. Massive gains on that downwind leg there as we see the Australians look good, Germany look good, and we've got a split at the bottom here. Artemis decided to do a left turn. They've fallen off the foils. GBR off the foils. I tell you who's on the foils. Have a guess, Todd. It's the Spanish. They always seem to be on the foils, but they decide to do an extra manoeuvre. They turn back out there, and yeah, it's so tight. You can see the North Star Canada have dropped back into the pack against Spain for once off the foils here. It's all about who's judged that right, the left turn at the bottom or the right turn at the bottom.
I think we got it without
Artemis look pretty good. They're not foiling, but they're progressing up the course nicely. Bond's Flying Ruse, well, they're going to be gone here.
I was going to say, you know who are foiling?
Yeah.
Try to build in this one and roll back.
And that's about as smooth as it gets.
Stand by there.
Yeah, one more manoeuvre here, but they've got a pretty big lead in it because all the other teams have got at least 2 to do. So big advantage for this Australian team, and they could be bookending the day here with first places.
Look at the speed difference. Even after that maneuver, the Bond's Flying Ruse still close to 40 kilometers an hour. Everyone else hovering in the 20s.
Okay, that's a bit better.
I love it. He tried to suggest in that package we watched a minute ago that he wasn't tense or as stressed as he used to be about the racing. There's no way Tom Slingsby's never fired up for a race.
Well, at mark number 1, they were in 4th place. They now sit in 1st. And the Los Gallos for Spain, they start out in 9th, moved up to 5th. Germany, Deutsche Bank with 7th, and now they sit in 2nd place. But the curtain will come down on the first day of racing here at the KPMG Sydney Sail Grand Prix. And once again, the fans on Shark Island and all around the Harbour City will celebrate. It is the Bond's Flying Ruse that claim the Emirates winning moment and the race title in race number 4.
Yeah, really good end thing there. Tash Bryant, she's been working hard at the front of the boat. Normally the strategist at the back, I'm sure she'll have been inputting, but she's working hard on those handles when they get to 4 on board. Germany, Deutsche Bank, huge race in the scheme of their weekend here. Same for the US SailGP team. Outeridge has saved himself again up to 4th. Consistent day for the Swedish team there.
Trimming up.
Yeah, Italy, 11th at the moment. They look so good, of course, going into this race in 2nd place. This is going to really damage them on the overalls.
So Eric Postgard Heil, Anna Barth, Kevin Pepinet, and they will grab a 2nd and the points that go along with it. So that will certainly shake up the overall leaderboard as we look to Super Sunday. Remember, everyone trying to get into the top 3 after all the fleet races so they can race in the winner-take-all 3-boat event final.
Good.
Yeah, it's going to be so. They all seem to be learning that lesson, Todd, don't they? Get a good start, and the whole race is a lot easier.
Crazy how that happens.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's easier said than done. Is the problem with that one there. As we can see, the US SailGP team look good. Artemis is cementing their 4th.
I got diff off right now. It's fine. I diff on if you want.
Anna Weiss up front, handling the handles.
I think this is the kind of breeze where the US have a big advantage with Anna because she's such an athlete on those handles. And a lot of the other teams take the strategist forward, but they just haven't got that same athletic ability as Anna has. So I think in these breeze, it's a big advantage for the US team.
So race number 4, the top 3, it's the Bond's Flying Ruse, Germany, Deutsche Bank, and US SailGP finishing in 3rd.
Oh, it gets intense sometimes, eh?
Great move from Artemis and Nathan Outeridge. They will claim 4th and the points that go with it, and a nice save by Los Gallos, the winners of the last 2 races. So 4 races, 2 different winners. It'll be the big winners on the day will certainly be the Bond's Flying Ruse and Los Gallos, Spain, who will finish this race coming up in 4th. Make that 5th.
You weren't getting the camera in there.
I think the interesting thing for today is when Spain are out in front, they can stick all their foiling manoeuvres. When Australia are out in front, they stuck all their foiling manoeuvres. So to me, they've looked the 2 class teams, but none of them look great unless they're leading.
So Spain is safely in, and their day 1 is complete with mixed results, but 2 wins for them.
I don't know if there is a chance of doing it from here, but I have to see if we have to do it together or...
So the home team bookends their day. Tom Slingsby winning race number 1 and race number 4. Tom, congratulations on a successful day. How was it out there? You've sailed these waters so many times. What was your takeaway from day number 1?
I hope it was successful. I have no idea. I have no idea how we did against everyone else. I know we had 2 good ones and 2 bad ones. I don't think I've ever raced on the harbour when it's been like that. So it was a learning experience for us all, but yeah, I was glad we bounced back in that last race and got a good one.
Tom, when you're normally doing twilight racing in Australia, you have a slightly different hydration strategy out there. How was it racing that late in the evening?
Yeah, exactly. Usually when I'm on the harbour at this time, I'm replacing my Gatorade for something a bit stronger. but it was nice actually. It got really glary there as the sun was setting, but now the clouds have rolled in. It actually helped us a lot with vision on the race course. So that was beautiful. I enjoyed it. I hope everyone else did too.
Tom, appreciate your time. We'll see you guys on Super Sunday here at the KPMG Sydney Sail Grand Prix. The Swiss and the Italians will wrap up the 11 boats as they bring it home here on day number 1 as the sun sets on a beautiful day here in the Harbor City. Event number 3 of season 6 of SailGP. Well, let's take a look at the fly time, and once again, it's the Bonds Flying Ruse on top, claiming the big superlatives, not only the win, but 89.1% fly time around that course. Somehow, Tom Slingsby and company found the breeze with a beautiful backdrops like this with the Sydney Opera House. It was an absolute thing of beauty. So after 4 races, we take a look at the event standings. 1 day down, 1 more to go. 3 more fleet races tomorrow. It is Los Gallos that are on top with 32 points. The Bonds Flying Ruse in second. And Nathan Outteridge and the new squad, Artemis, currently sit in 3rd place. 3 points clear of Emirates GBR, the defending champions from last year.
We'll have a look at the Rolex Precision athletes of the day, and such a tricky day on the water sees 4 different athletes in each of those roles representing 4 different teams. So Nikolai Seierstedt from Rockwell Racing, really close to that start line. Julia Gross, strategist, sailing the shortest distance but not always getting ahead of with the fastest boat speed. But Ian Jensen, a great return for him on his first day racing for the Bonds Flying Ruse, best wing trimmer of the day.
Well, yeah, and then we come on, of course, the Rolex best time start, and that went the way of the Swiss in this race. 0.125 of a second behind the gun. Incredible timing.
And the fastest speed of the day, brought to you by DP World, goes the way of Red Bull Italy. They go 68.1 kilometers an hour on very patchy conditions. So somehow Phil Robertson and Red Bull Italy found the speed out there on the Sydney Harbor. Right now, we check in for an update on tomorrow. Here's Lisa Darmanin and Content Delapierre.
Well, I'm actually with Diego Botin. Diego, how tough was it out here? I know, it's an athlete sport, but it's also a mental game.
Yeah, it's super hard. These conditions with the big up and downs on the wind and the massive fleet, that makes a huge gas. Obviously, we got out of the start a couple of times really well, and that was quite nice. But then the other 2 races were very, very hard. We needed to work a lot to get the boat around the course.
Well, I think you're going to have to work just as hard tomorrow. I think the wind is going to be just as light, but it's going to be a little bit more round to the left, around east-northeast, around 11 to 20 kilometers per hour. There will be lots of thinking about today and a bit of resting and preparing for tomorrow.
All right, thank you very much, Lisa. Appreciate your time. A beautiful day comes to a conclusion in the Harbor City, and we turn our attention now to Super Sunday. Who will emerge victorious and take the title when it is all said and done? Enjoy the sunset here at day number 1 of the KPMG Sydney Sail Grand Prix, part of the Rolex SailGP Championship. On behalf of Stevie Morrison, Hannah Diamond, Lisa Darmanin, and Content Delapierre, I'm Todd Harris saying so long for now. We'll see you tomorrow for Super Sunday. SailGP returns to one of the most iconic venues in all of sailing. This is the KPMG Sydney Sail Grand Prix. Tom Slingsby on home waters gets it done.
Big lead for the Swiss.
Los Gallos, Spain, pick up the victory.
Massive tight incident at the top of the line. Clearly,
get close.
React. Kind of classic Tom Slingsby, really.